Hi guys, so in this video today, I'm going to talk about how you can start to process and to get through and heal from some of the trauma from narcissistic abuse. So when you first get out of these relationships, you will very likely you are still going to be in a state of shock, and you might not even, by this point when you're first newly out of it, you might not even really realize what sort of relationship you were in. You might not even be to the stage where you're able to acknowledge that you were in a psychologically and emotionally abusive relationship, sometimes verbally or physically. But in general, you're going to be in a state of shock, and especially if the discard happened fairly quickly, and you may have been in sort of the idealization, and then the devaluation phase may have been sort of long and subtle and over time, where it was very difficult to sort of pinpoint what was happening. And then the discard happened, and it may have been very drastic, and you may have watched like a mask come off, and somebody that you thought you knew, it could have been for a really long time. It could have been for 10, 15, 20 years if you were with a psychopath, very, hidden psychopath, or a covert narcissist, or somebody that was very, very hidden in their manipulation and abuse. And if so, you might not have known what you were in at all until you get out and you start to process and you start to realize that the person you were with was, usually there's some like D-Day. You found out that they had been having a long-term affair. You found out, one of my clients was talking about, she found out that her soon-to-be husband, that her fiance was soliciting male prostitutes on the internet, and she thought he was heterosexual and monogamous. You might find out that they, had a completely hidden double life of prostitutes or pornography or whatever. It could be anything. Sometimes it's fraud. Sometimes people find out that their spouse was committing criminal acts. Sometimes they find out that their spouse has another family and they're married in another state to another person. It's the level of duplicity is incomprehensible, right? So, but whatever situation you found yourself in, you get out of the relationship and you are in a state of shock. Your body is in a state of shock. It is affecting your entire nervous system. It is affecting the way that your brain processes emotions, memory, information. You may feel that you have like foggy brain. You may feel very confused. The gaslighting is very, very confusing. It's very, very traumatic for the human brain because it creates a lot of cognitive dissonance where you're trying to reconcile, what this person is saying to you, the lies that they're telling you, with what your intuition or your God consciousness is telling you. And those two things are, creating a lot of friction in your brain and your consciousness. So it's very, very difficult to deal with that cognitive dissonance. So, obviously we've gone over narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic abuse, like what it does to the person. It's very traumatizing. It can cause complex PTSD and at a bare minimum trauma. So some of the things that you can really do to sort of get out of this trauma and to heal from this trauma is a lot of movement of your body. And that can be, in the form of running. It can be in the form of just dancing, shaking your body, shaking, your arms. You can dance, put on some music in the morning and just dance around. It can be in the form of yoga. And even if you're low energy, you can do some restorative yoga. There's also trauma informed yoga. And, really just get this trauma out of your body. Even if this all sounds too vigorous, and I understand because you may be in that state of just like low energy and that almost like a chronic fatigue syndrome state. So you may, even if you just start walking every day, if you start walking a 15, 20-minute walk in your neighborhood, 10-minute walk, start noticing, the sky, the trees, the beauty around you, and just start to get out and use your body, move your body. And that is one way, is just really, getting in touch with the, trauma that's in your body and getting it out. It's very helpful. I do a lot of rock climbing, and that's been my go-to is rock climbing and yoga, and starting to get back into more running. So these are some of the things that I've gone to help to heal the trauma. And so I really encourage exercise is just such a really powerful way to, somatically sort of heal your body. And then, I really recommend EMDR therapy. Now, EMDR therapy is really very, it's trauma-informed therapy where you are realizing that, whoever the abuser was, the narcissist, psychopath, sociopath, whatever that you were dealing with, they were triggering some of your, or likely it's possible that they were triggering some of your childhood trauma, some of your abandonment from childhood, and your early childhood sort of trauma. And so sometimes, it's like they're the trigger for that little girl or that little boy who was abandoned, who was abused, who was mistreated, right? Or neglected, or whatever the case may be. And that EMDR therapy is very helpful for healing that childhood trauma that is letting you be in, sort of triggered by outside influences. And once you start healing that, so one of the videos I talked about is you might have this childhood trauma, this inner monologue from your childhood that's telling you that, you're not good enough. You're not worthy, especially if you tend to be more codependent or even sort of an empath, like, it may be telling you, you're not worthy. You're not good enough. You have to work and earn love. You have to earn approval. Like, this may already be sort of your inner, monologue that's going on in your brain. And the narcissist, all they're doing is reinforcing what you might already be telling yourself that happened a long, long time ago when you were a little kid. Wasn't your fault. You didn't have anything to do with creating that trauma, but it's not your fault, but you want to heal it because it's causing you pain later in life. And like, obviously, if you came from sort of childhood trauma, you came from a place where it was, the comfort level with abuse may have been, you may have been used to neglect or abuse or verbal abuse or emotional abuse or psychological abuse or even physical abuse. This may have been normalized when you were a child. And so when you meet that abuser as an adult, it's like, oh, this is chemistry. No, it's not chemistry. It's actually your fight or flight survival system kicking in, telling you that you should be running for the hills. But we can often confuse it with chemistry. And then you may have a certain comfort level with people that tend to be manipulative or abusive, right? Because it's normal to you. It was normalized when you were a child. So I really recommend, I'm going to do more on this, but in a nutshell, for sure, really vigorous exercise. You can start with mild exercise, but work your way into some vigorous exercise. And then really, I really recommend some trauma-informed therapy. And again, I think EMDR has been, vital for my recovery and my healing. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you guys are thriving out there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.